Rwandan-backed rebels M23 claim they have captured Goma, which is the largest city in eastern Congo. Congo's government said the rebel advance was a declaration of war, and the United Nations has described mass panic amongst Goma's 2 million residents. The rebels' offensive threatens to dramatically worsen what is already one of Africa's longest wars and further displace civilians. But where did this all start? This conflict goes back to the Hutu and Tutsi, who are two very similar ethnic groups living in neighbouring Rwanda. The groups had fought several times since the fall of the Tutsi monarchy in 1959, and this culminated in 1994, when 800,000 members of the Tutsi minority community were killed by ethnic Hutu extremists in what was later recognised around the world as a genocide. 2 million people were displaced as a result, with over 1 million people from both sides ending up in the Congo. Now, over the next decade, Rwanda fought multiple wars with Congo, targeting Hutu militant groups and even backed Tutsi rebels who destabilized the Congolese government. By the end of March 2009, the Congolese government promised those Tutsi rebels integration within the military and civilian institutions, in return for them re-entering the country's democracy as a political party. Which brings us to the rebel group M23. Now, M23 was formed in 2012, named after that 2009 peace accord signed on the 23rd of March. The group accused the government of Congo of failing to implement that peace deal. They vow to defend Tutsi interests, particularly against ethnic Hutu militias. M23 have waged rebellions since its formation. They took Goma once before in 2012. After a decade of inactivity, the group resurfaced in late 2021, with M23 taking more and more territory in northern Kivu. Now, according to United Nations experts, the group has received increasing support from the Rwandan government. Rwanda has denied such support. Yesterday, the president of Kenya, head of the East African Community of Nations, expressed dismay and concern.
We do not see, from where I sit, a possibility of a military solution to the challenges that faced Eastern DRC.
The UN has warned over 1/3 of the population in Goma's province are displaced, which will only be exacerbated by the capture of the city, with hundreds fleeing. Jackson and his family fled Goma during fighting in 2012, but this time they've chosen to stay.
Sitting here, I can hear the sound of bombs, the crackle of falling bullets. We decided to stay at home because as long as there are wars, those who flee the war can also die or live a bad life. That's why we thought it was better to stay at home than to die fleeing a war. If we're going to die, it's better to die here.
But this isn't just another humanitarian crisis in a troubled corner of Africa, because this matters to all of us. And why? Because Eastern Congo has some of the richest reserves of critical minerals in the world. Almost every smartphone, smart fridge, electrical vehicle, solar panel and wind turbine would not work without the cobalt, tantalum, copper and rare earth elements mined in Eastern Congo. That is what is truly at the heart of this conflict and why it's getting the attention of major powers. It's also at the heart of the human tragedy in Congo, as people are uprooted again and again in wars for control of this vital region.